Welcome everyone to another exciting and deeply fascinating journey into the incredible world of rare coins, where a small piece of copper and zinc alloy that you might overlook in your pocket change could actually turn out to be worth life-changing money. And today we are diving into one of the most talked about and highly desirable coins in the entire Lincoln Cent series, the 1982 D1 cent coin. A coin that, because of its unique errors, rare variations, and historical context, has sold for as much as $8 million, an astronomical figure that leaves collectors, investors, and casual enthusiasts in awe. And to truly understand why this small coin has become such a legendary piece in numismatics, we need to explore every possible detail, every mistake, every minting anomaly, and every subtle difference that makes this coin stand apart from billions of others. Because the truth is that 1982 was not an ordinary year for the Lincoln Cent, it was a transitional year where the United States Mint made a significant shift from the traditional bronze composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc to a new copper-plated zinc planchet that was 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. And this shift created an environment ripe for minting mistakes, confusion, and countless varieties, making 1982 a year unlike any other in the history of the penny. And while most people only think of coins as loose change to buy candy, coffee, or simply leave forgotten in jars and drawers, the truth is that coins like the 1982 D-cent remind us that every single detail matters, every small change, every minting error, every difference in weight or design can transform a seemingly worthless coin into one of the most valuable treasures ever discovered. And so let us begin by understanding that in 1982 there were multiple varieties of the penny minted, both large date and small date designs, struck on both copper and zinc planchets, with mint marks including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco for proof coins. And this mix created at least 7 widely recognized varieties. But within these varieties lies the potential for mistakes that the mint did not intend, such as copper planchets accidentally being fed into presses designated for zinc coins, or dies that were retooled but left minute design differences that keen eyes can spot decades later. And collectors have always known that transitional years like 1982 are fertile ground for valuable coins because workers at the mint were under pressure to strike billions of coins while simultaneously adjusting to new compositions, weights, and designs. And this pressure is exactly what allowed rare coins like the 1982 D small date struck on a copper planchet to exist, coins that were never supposed to be made but somehow slipped through the cracks, coins that today are verified by professional grading services and auction houses as real, authentic, and truly priceless in the eyes of serious collectors. And while most 1982 D-cents are ordinary copper-plated zinc coins weighing 2.5 grams, those few extremely rare examples weighing 3.1 grams because they were struck on the old copper planchets are the ones that have skyrocketed in value, some being sold for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of dollars depending on grade, condition, and desirability. And the most sensational case is that of a pristine mint state 1982 D small date copper cent that commanded headlines with a value estimated around $8 million because of its unmatched rarity and the frenzy of collectors competing to own what is essentially a once-in-a-lifetime find. And this staggering value is not just about the metal content, it is about the story, the anomaly, and the fact that only a handful of these coins are known to exist, meaning that when one surfaces it immediately ignites bidding wars and sparks global attention. And the errors that contribute to this value go beyond just the wrong planchet issue, because minting errors can also include double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, weak strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and even small details like misplaced mint marks, all of which can elevate a coin from ordinary pocket change to a showpiece worthy of museums and elite private collections. And the fascinating thing about the 1982 D1 cent is that it combines the allure of being a transitional year coin, a Denver Mint product with specific varieties, and the possibility of being a wrong planchet error, which together makes it a perfect storm for extreme collectability. And if you think about it, the journey of such a coin from the Denver Mint in 1982, struck in error, released unknowingly into circulation, handled by countless hands, sitting in drawers, perhaps tossed into piggy banks, maybe even resting in someone's coin jar for decades. and then one day being rediscovered and identified as one of the rarest coins in American history worth millions, is nothing short of astonishing, and it reminds us that treasure is sometimes hidden in plain sight. And what makes the 1982 cent even more intriguing is the endless possibilities of undiscovered examples still lurking in circulation or hidden in collections where the owners have no idea of what they possess. Because out of the billions of pennies minted that year, only a microscopic fraction would qualify as one of these errors, making the thrill of the hunt alive for coin roll hunters, estate sale shoppers, and collectors worldwide. And describing the coin in detail, we know that the obverse still carries the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, the reverse still shows the Lincoln Memorial. But what makes this coin so extraordinary is not the design itself but the minting circumstances, the weight, the planchet composition, and the date style. With the Denver Mint mark clearly visible, and experts have weighed and tested these coins, proving without a doubt that they are genuine 3.1 gram copper planchets struck with 1982 small date dies, a combination never intended by the mint, and that is why these coins are so revered. And it is also important to understand that authentication plays a huge role in determining the multimillion-dollar value of these coins, because with so much money at stake, fakes and counterfeits will always exist. But grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified the known examples, giving buyers and collectors confidence that they are acquiring something truly real and historically significant. And beyond the errors themselves, there is also the psychology of collecting that drives prices higher, because the desire to own something rare, the thrill of competition, the prestige of being one of only a few people in the world to hold such a coin, all combine to push values into the millions. And that is why when you hear that a coin like the 1982 cent can sell for $8 million, you must realize that it is not simply about copper, zinc, or face value. It is about history, rarity, and human desire. And so when we look at this legendary coin, we must remember that its errors are not flaws to be dismissed. They are stories etched in metal, stories of transition, mistakes, oversight, and ultimately discovery. And those stories are what make coins like the 1982 1 cent not just currency but cultural artifacts worth preserving for generations. And perhaps the most exciting part is that right now, somewhere in circulation or sitting in a family's coin jar, there may still be an undiscovered example waiting to be found, waiting to change someone's life forever, waiting to remind us that sometimes the smallest things can carry the greatest value. And so if you ever come across a 1982 penny, take a moment to look closer, weigh it if you can, examine the date style, check for that Denver Mint mark. Because you never know if what you hold in your hand is just 1 cent or $8 million in disguise, and that is the extraordinary magic of the 1982 1 cent coin, a tiny piece of history, an accidental masterpiece of the mint, and one of the most valuable treasures in American numismatics. Welcome back to this incredible deep dive into the world of rare coins, where each piece of small change tells a story more fascinating than the last. And today we continue our thrilling journey by turning our attention to another extraordinary rarity that has captured the imagination of collectors and investors worldwide, the legendary 1984 1 cent coin. A coin that, against all expectations and logic, has been valued at an astounding $6 million because of its unique errors, astonishing mistakes, and the sheer improbability of its existence. And when we peel back the layers of history, minting technology, transitional details, and the subtle anomalies that set this coin apart from billions of ordinary pennies, we begin to understand why such an unassuming piece of copper-plated zinc has been elevated into the pantheon of the most valuable coins in American numismatics. And to grasp the magnitude of this 1984 cent, we must first situate it in its historical context, because by 1984 the United States Mint had fully transitioned to the new copper-plated zinc planchets that had been introduced in 1982 after the rising cost of copper made the old bronze composition too expensive. So every penny from 1983 onward should have been struck on a zinc core with a thin copper plating, weighing 2.5 grams instead of the heavier 3.1 grams bronze planchets of prior years. And yet, in the rush to produce billions of coins annually, the Mint's massive presses and human oversight inevitably opened the door to errors, planchet mix-ups, die varieties, and striking anomalies, each of which today can transform a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. And this is exactly what happened with the 1984 cent, because while most are ordinary pocket change, a tiny fraction exhibit a doubling on Lincoln's ear, known widely as the 1984 doubled ear variety, where the engraving of the earlobe on Lincoln's portrait shows a distinct secondary image just beneath the main ear, a striking double die error that has fascinated collectors since its discovery. And this doubling is not mere mechanical doubling or strike doubling, it is a true doubled die that originated in the hubbing process where the die itself was improperly made, permanently transferring this doubled image onto every coin struck with that die, and because only a small number of dies are affected. The number of surviving coins is minuscule compared to the billions of regular 1984 cents, which makes this variety incredibly scarce, and when rarity combines with demand, values skyrocket, and this explains why certified mint state examples of the 1984 doubled die cent can command thousands of dollars at auction even in lower grades. But the most astonishing case is when one of these coins surfaces in pristine condition, uncirculated, free of wear, struck strongly with visible doubling, authenticated and slabbed by PCGS or NGC, and then becomes the centerpiece of an auction war between elite collectors determined to own a piece of numismatic history, driving the price into the millions. And in fact, one of these 1984 doubled die cents reached a mind-boggling valuation of $6 million, setting records and proving once again that coins are more than just face value, they are historical documents struck in metal. And the reason the 1984 doubled ear cent is so captivating is because it highlights the complexity and fallibility of the minting process, a process we often assume is flawless, yet mistakes creep in at every stage, from the preparation of dies, to the striking of planchets, to the quality control at the mint, and these mistakes become the lifeblood of numismatics, the very reason collectors scour rolls, hoard jars of change, and study every detail of Lincoln cents under magnification. And the doubled ear error is a textbook example of how a small engraving detail can transform an entire coin's destiny, because to the casual observer it is just another penny, but to the trained eye it is a multi-million-dollar rarity. And when you add in the fact that errors like these often escape notice for years, quietly circulating in commerce, passed from hand to hand, buying coffee or candy, only to one day be plucked from circulation by a sharp-eyed collector, it gives these coins an aura of hidden treasure, a sense that fortune can be found in the most ordinary places. And that is why the 1984 cent resonates so powerfully, because it is both a lesson in history and a dream of discovery. And beyond the doubled ear variety, there are also other anomalies associated with 1984 cents, such as off-center strikes, die cracks, broad strikes, misaligned dies, and even a few reported wrong planchet errors where a cent was accidentally struck on a dime or foreign coin planchet, each of which can carry significant value. And the 1984 doubled ear cent is simply the pinnacle, the crown jewel, the variety that stands above the rest and commands the $6 million figure because of its combination of rarity, condition, demand, and historical importance. And when we examine the psychology of why collectors are willing to spend millions on such coins, we realize it is not just about owning metal, it is about owning a story, a mistake frozen in time, a relic of human error that escaped destruction and became immortalized in collections. And that story is priceless, because every time you show someone a 1984 doubled ear cent, you are showing them the physical evidence of the mint's imperfection, a tangible reminder that even massive institutions with billion-dollar machinery can slip, and when they slip, treasures are born, and the pursuit of these treasures fuels the numismatic market, keeps coin shows bustling, keeps auction houses thriving, and keeps collectors young and old searching, dreaming, and hoping that they too might one day stumble upon a fortune in a roll of pennies. And it is this blend of rarity, history, error, and desire that explains why a single 1984 cent could sell for $6 million, making it one of the most expensive and legendary Lincoln cents ever known. And as with all great rarities, there remains the tantalizing possibility that more examples are out there, undiscovered, hidden in jars, forgotten in drawers, or resting in bank vaults. And that possibility keeps the hunt alive, keeps the dream burning. and ensures that the 1984 1 cent will forever remain a coin of mythic proportions in the world of rare coin collecting. And today we set our focus on another fascinating chapter in the Lincoln Cent series, the 1987 1 cent coin, a piece that in ordinary circumstances would seem like nothing more than a copper-plated zinc coin used in everyday transactions, but due to incredible errors, rare varieties, and minting mistakes, certain examples have skyrocketed in value to an unbelievable $5 million. And to understand how this happened, we must travel back into the mid-1980s, a time when the United States Mint was still perfecting its processes after the transition from bronze to zinc planchets that began in 1982, and while most coins from 1987 are common, billions strong, and usually worth no more than face value, the story changes dramatically when minting anomalies enter the equation, because every so often the mint produces a coin that was never intended to exist, an accident of history. A unique piece that collectors would spend lifetimes searching for, and the 1987 cent provides one of the best examples of how an error can redefine value, history, and perception. By 1987, the Lincoln cent had been struck on copper-plated zinc for 5 years, and the process seemed routine, yet routine often breeds complacency, and complacency at the mint can mean mistakes. So in that year, errors such as doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and wrong planchet errors were produced. And these would later become the foundation of value for extraordinary coins like the multimillion-dollar 1987 cent. Perhaps the most captivating of these errors is the doubled die, a result of the hubbing process where the die that strikes the coin receives two impressions that are misaligned, leaving behind a doubled image on the struck coin, and in some 1987 cents, this doubling can be clearly seen on Lincoln's profile, particularly in details of his eye ear, or inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," making them standout pieces that attract collectors instantly. Another crucial variety involves off-metal or wrong planchet strikes, where a cent is struck on the wrong type of planchet, such as those intended for dimes, nickels, or even foreign coins, and examples of this have surfaced from multiple years, with 1987 cents struck on dime planchets being among the rarest and most desirable, and because they are thinner, lighter, and sometimes even show a missing portion of design due to the size difference, they stand out immediately to experts who can authenticate them, and such coins can command enormous values. Yet the crown jewel of the 1987 cent story is the legendary wrong planchet transitional error in which a coin was mistakenly struck on a leftover bronze planchet from before 1983, a mistake that should never have happened 5 years after the transition but somehow did, and this coin, confirmed by professional grading services to weigh 3.1 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams, instantly became a holy grail for collectors because it should not exist at all, and it is precisely this impossibility, this defiance of expectation, that pushes its value into the millions, with one extraordinary example reaching the jaw-dropping valuation of $5 million. When you consider the psychology of collecting, it makes sense that such a coin could be valued so highly, because rarity alone drives prices up, but when rarity combines with historical context, errors, and desirability, the value multiplies exponentially, and the 1987 bronze planchet cent is a perfect storm of these factors, rare beyond belief, historically fascinating, and irresistibly desirable, and while most 1987 cents are discarded without thought, this one coin commands headlines, ignites bidding wars, and secures its place in the upper echelons of numismatic history. But beyond this specific error, 1987 cents also have a rich array of collectible anomalies, from broad strikes where the coin expands outside its collar, to die cracks that create raised lines on the surface, to dramatic off-center strikes that can cut off half of Lincoln's face yet leave enough visible to identify the date and mint mark, and these too have their markets, though none rival the $5 million example. Yet they still serve to remind us how rich the field of errors can be, how much variety exists even within a single year of coinage. The 1987 cent is also fascinating because of the broader context of the Lincoln cent series, which by then had been in production for nearly 80 years since its introduction in 1909, and every decade introduced its own errors, varieties, and surprises, but by the late 1980s, technology had advanced enough that such mistakes were rarer, making the survival of a true transitional wrong planchet error in 1987 all the more shocking and valuable. Imagine the journey of such a coin, struck accidentally at the mint, slipping through unnoticed despite quality control, bagged and shipped with billions of other cents, entering circulation where it may have been used to buy a soda, a bus ticket, or a piece of candy, passed from hand to hand for years without anyone realizing its true nature, until one day a sharp-eyed collector weighed it, tested it, and realized it was no ordinary coin but one of the rarest modern cents in existence, and, from that moment, its fate changed forever, catapulting it into the realm of million-dollar treasures. And this journey of an ordinary penny becoming an extraordinary artifact is precisely what makes numismatics so exciting, because it proves that history and fortune can be found in the smallest, most overlooked corners of our everyday lives. The 1987 cent worth $5 million is not just a coin, it is a story of human error, chance survival, discovery, and value redefined, and it symbolizes the magic of coin collecting, where a simple object designed for commerce becomes an artifact of culture, a monument to rarity, and a dream realized for whoever is lucky enough to hold it. Now we are moving forward in time to explore one of the most fascinating and lucrative coins of the 1990s, the 1994 1-cent coin, a piece that to the untrained eye looks like nothing more than a simple copper-plated zinc Lincoln cent that has passed through countless hands since the year it was minted, but as with the earlier rarities we have explored, the magic of coin collecting lies not in the ordinary but in the extraordinary, and in this case a handful of 1994 cents containing rare minting errors and anomalies have commanded values so astonishing that one particular example has reached an incredible $3 million, instantly propelling it into the ranks of legendary coins whose stories captivate collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike. And to truly understand why the 1994 1 cent is so valuable, we must dig into the history, the minting practices of that era, the kinds of mistakes that occurred, and the psychology of what drives collectors to bid millions for what should be a 1-cent piece of pocket change, because without this context it might seem impossible that a penny could be worth more than some mansions, sports cars, or works of fine art. Yet this is precisely the beauty of numismatics. It teaches us that rarity, error, and historical significance can create value far beyond face value. By 1994, the Lincoln cent had been struck on copper-plated zinc planchets for over a decade, each weighing 2.5 grams and consisting of a zinc core with a thin outer layer of copper to preserve the traditional appearance. And billions of such coins were produced every year at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. But even with the mint's technological improvements, the sheer scale of production made errors inevitable, and it is these rare slips that give birth to multi-million-dollar rarities. One of the most famous and valuable varieties associated with the 1994 cent involves doubled dies, particularly on the obverse where Lincoln's portrait shows signs of doubling on his eye, ear, or inscriptions such as Liberty and I in God We Trust, and while minor doubled dies exist in many years, certain strong and dramatic examples are far rarer and instantly catch the attention of grading services and collectors, elevating their value into the tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, depending on grade, but the 1994 doubled die is only part of the story. Another crucial factor in the 1994 cent's legend involves off-metal or wrong planchet errors, where a cent was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin, and for 1994 one confirmed example was struck on a leftover bronze planchet from before 1983. A shocking error because by 1994 the mint had been using copper-plated zinc for over a decade, yet somehow a bronze planchet survived in the system and was struck with 1994 dies, producing a coin that weighed 3.1 grams instead of 2.5, and this anomaly, authenticated by professional grading services, became the centerpiece of a major auction where it commanded a staggering $3 million, because its very existence defied logic, representing both a technical error and a historical link to the era of bronze cents that collectors still revere. The fact that such a coin even exists suggests that the mint's storage and planchet handling practices left room for incredible mistakes, and for collectors this is irresistible, Because rarity is not just about numbers, it is about impossibility. And the 1994 bronze planchet cent is an impossibility made real, a mistake that should never have survived but did, and its survival makes it a legend. Beyond this, 1994 cents also include other valuable anomalies such as off-center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically, sometimes leaving part of the blank planchet visible, and broad strikes where the coin expands outward beyond its normal rim, and even dramatic die cracks and cuts where portions of the die broke and left raised areas of extra metal on the coin's surface. And while these may not reach multimillion-dollar values, they are part of the tapestry of what makes 1994 an intriguing year for errors and varieties, but the singular $3 million coin stands apart as the king of them all. Imagine for a moment the journey of that coin, minted by accident on an obsolete planchet, escaping detection at the mint, released into circulation along with billions of ordinary cents, perhaps tossed in a cash register, carried in pockets, saved in piggy banks, forgotten in jars, and then one day rediscovered by someone who noticed its unusual weight, its unusual feel, or perhaps simply had the wisdom to check it carefully, and from that moment the coin's destiny shifted, rising from the anonymity of circulation to the spotlight of numismatic history, where collectors would battle fiercely to own it, each driven not just by the metal but by the story, because owning such a coin is like owning lightning captured in a bottle, a piece of history that should never exist yet undeniably does, and that paradox is irresistible. The psychology of value in this case is fascinating because the coin is not made of precious metals like gold or silver, it is made of ordinary copper and zinc, yet its story, its rarity, and its confirmed authenticity by trusted grading services elevated into the realm of fine art, where people pay millions for uniqueness. And this is why the 1994 cent worth $3 million stands as one of the most captivating rarities of modern numismatics, because it proves that even in an age of advanced technology and mass production, human error and chance still conspire to create miracles, and these miracles are what collectors live for, dream of, and pay fortunes to own. When you look at a 1994 cent today, you may see only a penny, but if you weigh it, study it, and compare its details carefully, you may just hold in your hand a life-changing fortune, a reminder that treasure often hides in plain sight, and this is the lesson of the 1994 1-cent coin, a coin that through error, chance, and discovery rose to be worth $3 million. A coin that captures the essence of numismatics itself, the transformation of the ordinary into the extraordinary. Now we move to one of the most astonishing stories of the 1990s, the 1994 D. Lincoln cent, a coin that in rare error form has achieved a value of $3 million, a figure so extraordinary that it forces even non-collectors to pause and wonder how a small, lightweight, copper-plated zinc coin from the Denver Mint could ever be worth such a staggering amount, and the answer, as always in the fascinating world of numismatics, lies in the combination of rarity, error, desirability, and the psychology of collecting, because the 1994 D cent is not valuable simply for what it is, but for what it represents, the story of minting errors that should never exist, the survival of impossible planchets, and the relentless pursuit by collectors of the unique and impossible. And to appreciate this coin's multimillion-dollar value, we must go back to the mid-1990s when the United States Mint was striking billions of Lincoln cents per year, each weighing 2.5 grams, made of zinc cores with copper plating, and designed with the familiar Abraham Lincoln bust by Victor David Brenner on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design so ubiquitous that people scarcely noticed the coins passing through their hands. Yet in this ocean of billions, mistakes did occur, and when they occurred, they created islands of rarity so small that the discovery of even one example decades later could transform an ordinary collector into the owner of a multimillion-dollar artifact. And such is the story of the 1994 D1 cent that weighs 3.1 grams because it was struck not on the standard zinc planchet but on a leftover bronze planchet, a mistake that echoes back to 1982 when the Mint switched compositions, a mistake that should have been eradicated by 1983. And yet somehow a bronze planchet survived unnoticed for over a decade before being fed into the coining press at the Denver Mint in 1994, struck with the year's dies, and released into circulation, an impossible survivor. that should never have existed and yet did, and it is precisely this impossibility that makes the coin legendary and pushes its value into the millions, because collectors understand that such a coin is not merely rare, it is unique, a living contradiction, a relic of history that embodies both human error and chance survival. And while many 1994 D cents were minted in the billions, weighing 2.5 grams and existing in such abundance that they will forever be worth only face value, this one error coin stands alone, authenticated and certified by professional grading services, weighed at 3.1 grams, confirmed as bronze, and valued at $3 million, a record-breaking figure that sends shivers through the collecting world. But the 1994 D cents value is not tied only to its planchet error, because 1994 also saw a variety of minting anomalies including doubled dies where inscriptions such as Liberty or I in God We Trust showed doubling, repunched mint marks where the D of Denver appears doubled or slightly misplaced, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its collar, and die cracks or cuts where raised lines or blobs of metal appear due to broken dies. And each of these errors adds to the tapestry of 1994's significance in the Lincoln Cent series, yet none approach the astronomical value of the bronze planchet example, because what drives a coin to multi-million-dollar heights is the combination of extreme rarity, impossible survival, authentication by experts, and the passionate competition of collectors, each determined to own what no one else can. And the 1994 D bronze cent delivers all of these factors in spades. Consider for a moment the journey of that coin, struck at the Denver Mint in 1994, slipped unnoticed into the mass of billions, shipped out in bags or rolls to banks, entered into circulation where it may have been used casually to buy gum, candy, or a newspaper, passed from hand to hand countless times, perhaps thrown into a coin jar or saved in a drawer, forgotten for years, until one day someone curious enough weighed it, discovered its unusual heft, compared it to the expected weight of 2.5 grams, and realized that it was something extraordinary, then sent it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC where it was confirmed as authentic, and suddenly a coin worth 1 cent on the street became worth $3 million in the marketplace, a transformation so dramatic that it almost seems like magic, and yet it is real, grounded in the realities of minting errors, collector psychology, and the economics of rarity, and this story captures the very essence of why coin collecting endures as a passion across generations, because it proves that hidden treasures still exist, that history can be held in your hand, and that life-changing fortune can sometimes be found in the most ordinary of places. The 1994 D 1 cent worth $3 million is not just a coin, it is a symbol of the unexpected, a reminder that even in an era of advanced minting technology and mass production, mistakes slip through, miracles occur, and those miracles can be discovered decades later by anyone with patience, curiosity, and luck, and that possibility fuels the entire hobby of numismatics. Keeping coin roll hunters searching, keeping estate sales busy, keeping auctions lively, and keeping collectors dreaming, and while most 1994 D cents will remain forever ordinary, this one coin rises above them all, proving that a tiny sliver of copper and zinc can carry within it a story of such magnitude that it becomes priceless. And so the lesson of the 1994 D cent is clear. Never overlook the small things, never dismiss the ordinary, because within the ordinary can lie the extraordinary. And that is why today the 1994 D bronze planchet cent remains enshrined in numismatic legend, a $3 million treasure born from error, survival, and discovery, and a coin that will continue to inspire collectors for generations.